Hello and welcome back to A Beginner's Guide to Making Balatro Mods. I'm the Astra and I'm once again your host for this series. And in today's episode we will be going over three different things: consumables, consumable types, and booster packs. The reason I'm bunching all these three together is because they are pretty closely related to each other, and there's a lot of back-end integration between the three object types. Alright, so first off, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to make a consumables folder, very similar to how we did our jokers in episode 2. If you haven't watched that, please go do so. So consumables here. And let's get started. So to begin, just like we do with our jokers, we want a smods.consumable. The basic structure of consumable is very similar to joker. Some of the attributes include your key, which in this case will be consumable 1. We're going to have atlas, which will be placeholders. We're going to have position, which will be, in this case, forgotten equals. I want to use the Tarot sprite, so y12, x1. Okay. And obviously our config table for our ability. So yeah, the basic structure of a consumable is very similar to a joker, but let's go over a few values that are exclusive to consumables. To start off, let's start with our set. And the set will be the type of card this consumable will be. So for example, if I make the set tarot, this consumable will be a tarot card. We will go over how a custom consumable type works later in this episode. We also have a few different values for stuff like soul cards, such as hidden equals true. This makes it so that it won't show up normally like your typical strength and death and whatever. We also have soul set, which is the extra set that the card can show up in. So let's say, for example, if this instead was a spectral and I want this to show up in tarots, you do that. So this is kind of how the soul works, in that it will show up in both Arcana packs and Spectral packs. I'm going to get rid of that for now. And then finally, or not finally, no. And then we have our soul rate, which is how often the card will show up as a soul. So if I do 0.03, that is your pretty basic soul rate. I believe this is how often the base soul spectral will show up. I think this is also just the default smods puts if you have a hidden attribute as true. And then we have, last but not least, can repeat soul. And this is a Boolean. If I set this to true, this makes it so, or this makes it act like a showman is being held. It will ignore other the same soul cards when being generated. So I actually don't want all these. I'm just showing you this as an example. So I'm gonna get rid of those. And one last thing I would like to show as an example is select card. And this will be a string. If you have a custom card area, this is very useful, because what this does is when you're selecting this card from a booster pack, it will send it to the specified card area. So for example, if I put consumable, the reason it's spelled like this is because it's based off of the g.consumables card area. That's where all of your consumables will be held in base game. But if you have a custom card area, for example, if you want the Maximus horoscope area, it would be something like that. So that's where this card will be placed when selected from a booster pack. Setting this value will also make it so you cannot use the card within the booster pack. It will go straight to an area. But again, I don't think I want that right now. All right, so what I want for this basic tarot card is I want it to give us money when used. So I want this card to give me, let's make it $10 base. Having that set up, let's make a use function. Use equals function. And the parameters for use are self, card, which are very similar to your calculate. You're going to want area and copier. These two are a lot more niche. You probably won't be using these, but it's nice to have those defined anyways. And so what this function does is it will run whenever you use this card. So I want this to give me $10 on use. So I'm going to do ease dollars 10. And that should work. And the last thing you need to make this card functional is a can use function. So the only parameters you need here are self and card. And what this function will do is it will take a Boolean, and that Boolean will tell the game whether or not you can use the card. So right here, I would probably just use true. In some of the footage, you will see I tried using G-Game Blind to do something a little cute. Just imagine that just as true. I will also like to mention that you can use the same sort of functions that you can in a Joker. Like, for example, you can use calculate perfectly fine. You can use calc bonus dollars just fine. And it's all the exact same setup as our Jokers over here. All that works in consumables, easy peasy. Let me set up our localization for this. So since this is a tarot card, I'm going to make a tarot table, and then start with C for our prefix, C for consumable, XMPL, which is our mod prefix, consumable 1, name equals consumable 1, X equals something I just realized I forgot. I want my lock vars. Realized I forgot to do this too. Right about. There we go. And then do give. Alright, and that should be a finished consumable. Let's take in a game, open our mod, and look at that. Consumable 1 gives $10. And if I take this in game, spawn it here, $10. Alright, so that's a working consumable. Gives you $10 on use. Pretty simple, right? So let's get a little more complicated here. I'm going to copy this, make it, or call it consumable 2. And what's next is we are going to make a custom consumable type. Set that to 2. And then smods.consumable type. Once again, similar setup. So key, we're going to make this XMPL new type. And the reason I add the XMPL here is because consumable types do not add the mod prefix to their keys automatically. The reason for this is in case two mods add the same exact consumable type, for example, minor arcanas, this will allow them to be grouped together across mods. So next up, we're going to want some colors. We're going to want a primary color. And a secondary color. And what we're going to want to do is set these as hexes. Put a comma there. Why don't I? And I'm going to grab some color hexes really fast. That looked nice. All right, there we go. So this will be purple. This will be like a cyan. Hopefully that looks nice in game. If not, it's whatever. Something I briefly want to mention are the collection rows. I'm not actually going to keep this in the end product, but what this is if I do 4 and 3 in the collection, assuming you have more than 7 cards, it'll show up in the tab for this consumable type, 4 cards up top, 3 on the bottom. But as I said, we will not keep that around for now. So we're going to want a default This is the fallback card that we use whenever there's nothing available in the pool. So that'll be C XMPL Consumable 2. Shop rate. This is how often these cards will show up in the shop. I don't think I want this to show up in the shop, so I'm going to set this to 0. And just like in Consumable 1 with the select card, which we didn't add in, but if we wanted to add in, we can also add a select card to your consumable type and have it affect every single consumable in your set. And that is a fully set up consumable type right there. With that being that, I'm going to make an iteration of our first consumable here. I'm going to make it scale money based on the hands played. I'm going to make it 5. I need to set the set to our XMPL new type. To get hands played, I need g.game.hands played. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. And this should work with how I want it to work. So going to this, I now need a new section for XMPL new type. Same sort of setup here, C, XMPL. So that's it for this new card. But we also need to add localization for the consumable type itself, or else it's just gonna show a bunch of errors. So what we want here is a miscellaneous section, a dictionary in our miscellaneous. And in that dictionary, we want k_xmpl new type. And let's call this new type, well, example new type. I've put an E there. There should not be an E there. That's for the consumable type itself. For the badge, we want labels XMPL new type equals, let's just make it new type for the badge. Back up to the dictionary for the collection. I'm going to do B XMPL new type. And I'm going to do the same as below, the example new type. And then if we want to have an undiscovered text for this, which I think we want, I'm going to add other and then undiscovered XMPL new type. Name will be undiscovered new type text. So for the text, I'm going to copy it straight from vanilla. Purchase or use this card in Unseated Run, learn what it does. And that should be it for this guy right here. Now let's go in game, see if he works properly, which I hope he does. Go to the collection, consumable types, error. That's not right. Ah, that's what I did wrong. Forgot to add cards to that. There we go. There's our example new type category. Undiscovered new type. And if I go to the run, consumable 2, spawn it in. There's a consumable 2, plays $5 for each played hand. I'm gonna play just some random cards. Hopefully it gives me 10. $10. There we go. Okay, so that works. One thing I forgot to do here is completely forgot about that. Whoops. All right. That's just so you can see that in the end of all things. That's all set up. Fine and dandy. Now, let's go talk about boosters. All right. So let's make our smods up booster. Once again, very similar setup to what we've already done. You'll be seeing this pattern for basically every single smods object that you will want to make. So key equals booster 1. Atlas equals placeholders. Ah, that's interesting. So there's no booster or placeholder booster sprite. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to leave it default. Our config actually, in this case, needs to be set up a little bit differently. So with boosters, you need some specific variables defined for them to be displayed properly. So we want choose here. And this is how many cards you can choose out of the pack. I only want 1. And extra is the number of cards that can spawn in the pack. So let's make it 4. It's definitely weirder compared to some of the other ones, but blame Thunk for that one. Next, we want group key. And what group key is what the text underneath the booster packet should show is. So like, for example, it shows Arcana pack or Special pack in that little gray box underneath where the cards are. That's going to be our this is going to be the localization key for that. So I'm going to set it as K, XMPL, new pack. And in our localization over here, that will be set up in our dictionary. K, XMPL, new pack equals new type pack. So that's our group key. We can have a weight value, which is how often this shows up in the shop. Let's set it to 1. We can have a draw hand value, which is a boolean. If we set that to true, that'll draw hands when you or draw a hand of cards when you open the pack. But in this case, we don't need this, so I will omit it. So kind is the general kind of pack or group of packs that this pack is a part of. So for example, Arcana would be a kind, Spectral would be a kind here too. Whatever the planet packs are called, Buffoon pack, that'd be a kind. So I'm gonna make this kind new pack. You can also set a select card value here, just like the consumable type and consumable, but I will omit that as well. And now for this, we want to make a create card function. This is how all our cards in this pack will be generated. Create card equals function self card I. I is the index of the card being generated. So for example, the first card would be 1, the second card would be 2, so on and so forth. And what I will want to do here is return set equals XMPL new type area equals g.consumables skip materialize. This probably isn't something you've seen before, but this makes it so some weird particles don't generate on cards spawn in the pack. Booster packs use their own visual effects when they spawn cards, so we use skip materialize to not stack effects and cause weird buggy behavior. We're gonna make this soulable equals true. So in case you have a soul card in your pack or in your pack set, this makes it so souls can generate. Key append for your randomization key, so new pack gen, and that should be it for that. And finally, we want our lock vars, and lock vars should be set up a little bit more weird here, or because of certain variables that Smods uses or has set up. All right, so I'm just gonna copy this out from Maximus. There you go. So this is basically what any and all booster lock vars should look like. Just copy and paste this from the repo. It's a mouthful, that's for sure. But yeah, that should be a finished up pack. Let's work on the localization here now. So packs take a lot of localization, unfortunately, but it is what it is. All right, so the weird thing for boosters is that they will also go in the other here. So if I go P for pack, XMPL, booster 1. I'm going to do C, XMPL, new type. This will automatically get your primary color, so that's neat. New, and then new type cards. And that should work. Let's open that up. So if I go to collection, no mods, additions, we have our booster pack here. I'll start a run. Whoops. Just blast on through to the shop because you can only spawn packs in the shop with debug plus. Just making sure. Pack. So it uses the Arcana sprite. Ergo choose one of up to 4 new type cards. Got all these consumable 2s because that is our basic default card. Use that, get some $0 because no hands played. And yeah, that's a pack done. Some other things you can do with packs are a little interesting, such as ease background color. This is how you can change the background color of your booster, or of your open booster, excuse me. And this takes self, nothing more, nothing less. And how you would be using this is with these two functions here, ease color and ease background color. I currently have these set to the Terra colors, easy peasy. So if I go back in and open this card again, it shouldn't be that orange, surely. Just make that open up. Yeah, there you go. See, different colors, as you can see, easy peasy. I'll leave that in for you, just so you can use it to reference. And we also have particles, which is a little more advanced. I will not be getting into this today, but this is how you can generate special particles in your pack, like the planet pack, stars effects, stuff like that. Pretty cool. And that will be it for today. As a quick review, we did a consumable from a vanilla type, we did a consumable with a new type, and we did a booster with our new type that you can also make for vanilla types, whatever you want. I hope this was helpful, and enjoy creating.